my grandmother, I called her Großmutter. When I went to Germany, I learned, whoever says Großmutter? Oma! What's all this Großmutter is? But anyway, that's what I called her. That's what she wanted to be called. So I asked her about when she met Großvater, Opa, and she said, well, we had decided to leave Gerza. We were taking the train, and we were going to go to Zurich, and this young man got on the train, sat on the seat not far from us, and we got to Zurich, and he wanted to go to the zoological garden, and I went along with him. And then we got on the train again, and it turned out that they ended up taking the same ship across the Atlantic to the United States in the same train to the state of Washington, and where they lived originally was near a place called PL, I think, or
Yes, PL.
yeah. Anyway, so I am, I think, the only one on my side of the family to really have known my grandfather, Felber. And I was there because during the war, as you know, my father was in the Army, which is why we're here today, and he had to go overseas. He went overseas, I think it was September of 1943, and he came back in late January of 1946. So when he went over there in 1943, he drove us across the country. I can't remember that for some reason. I don't quite know why. I can't remember that. I was 6 months old. Damn, I can't remember that. I'm 5 months
We
old.
know you were a child prodigy.
Anyway, I do remember that Christmas though, because I was, I have this memory of the Christmas tree, me being on the floor. There was a bag, you know, some of you are old enough to remember, oranges came in a mesh bag. I mean, crap, yeah. But this was really a mesh bag, and there were blocks in it. I think I must have been given those blocks for Christmas. I had to crawl. That's why I knew I couldn't have been over a year old. Because if I were over a year old, I wouldn't have had to crawl to those blocks.
Yes, you would.
And maybe
You would have.
I didn't
learn how
remember
to
that.
crawl through
And I
too.
remember sitting on his lap, and my mother tells the story, told the story interminably. My wife must have heard it 50 million times about the time. Well, you know, this was an old house. Some of you are my relatives from the West, so you know what that house in South Bend looked like. So the
Which house?
windowsills.
Which house?
Grandmother.
This is
South Bend.
in
Okay,
South
which
Bend.
grandma? We're talking about
Felber.
Felber?
I haven't gotten to Aubrecht yet.
Okay.
You're going to be here. You told me to talk now, damn it. So anyway, the window ledges were about this high up over the floor. It's old style houses, so the windows were pretty low. So this would have been, well, it had to be before I was 2.5, so I remember it was nice and sunny, and so I got up on the window ledge, and I didn't know how to get back down, right? There I am standing against the window, and if I went this way I was going to fall, and how did I get up there? Well, I didn't know how to get back down again. Anyhow, so at the time, this was, I guess I was probably 2, something like that. At the time, there was potty training. So I said, "Mommy, potty!" She came and grabbed me, and then nothing happened. That was the reason the story was funny, because there wasn't a potty. Nothing at all happened. Then she finally figured out, I had figured out a way to get down. So,
Yeah, but you were lucky she didn't put you back up on the sill and say, "Do it yourself."
you would have done that, wouldn't you?
But Mom never would have done that.
Anyway, so I do remember being there. I remember the trees in the front. I remember that house. I remember the way it smelled in the bathroom in the back. I don't remember crawling on the floor into the wood stove that they had. I have a permanent scar on my cheek from that. But it was interesting time, and then in 1945, this was in November of 1945, we knew the war was over. War was over in the Atlantic, war was over in the Pacific. My father was coming home, so we had to take a train. And South Bend didn't have a train station, it was too puny a town. Raymond, though, had a train station. And Großvater and Großmutter took us there, and I remember crying like hell as we left, because, you know, they were my family. I didn't really know my father, even though I'd been with him for 6 months or something like that, but still. How much do you remember from that age? So we came east to Cleveland, Ohio. Well, actually, Maple Heights, Ohio, 16004 Broadway. And it was a totally different family. And that's when I got to know the other Aubrechts. And all of us, the siblings, knew
But not me, I wasn't there yet.
you were there when Grandma and Grandpa were alive, so you met.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Well, you did. They visited us in 1959, and Dad said at the time to me, and I don't think he said it out loud, he said, well, you never know. They're starting to get up in age. You never know how long they're going to be around. Really good that they're coming, because we haven't seen them in a while, and so forth. And that was the last, I went and saw them, because we had to pick up a car. It's a long story, but anyway, that was the last time they came out to visit us. So in 1959, you would have been,
I was there.
you were there.
Maybe I was out looking for my blanket.
No, you were out showing the blankie. Do your daughters know about that? Get the blankie. Yeah, good. His blankie was amazing, and he was so proud of that blankie. He went to the neighbors, he showed the blankie. Well, you know, he had the blankie for a long, long time. And the next door neighbor so up Bell Drive from us, I can't remember their name anymore. Alphos?
No.
Murray's. The Murrays.
Murray. So,
Wow,
the
good.
story is, at this time, the blankie was sort of in tatters and about this big, and he knocked on the door. She came to the door, and he said, "Look at my blankie!" And somehow, shortly after that, the blankie got lost.
It didn't get lost, that's a lie. It had to do something with, someone decided it had to be disposed of, and I think that put an emotional kick into me, because I was in bed, I was bedridden from this, and then they brought it into me. No, they came into me, all of them looking, all these grown-ups looking down on me. We found what's left of your blanket, it was out in the woods. This is it, you can't keep it anymore. We're gonna wash it. No, that's what happened. We put it in the washing machine, and that was the end of that night. Never got back to the owner.
That wasn't the first time.
We have a major marriage quarrel. If I decide you should chuck some of your underwear, you're not wearing it anymore.
But it was interesting. We had some interesting times. For example, when we were sitting down to dinner, this is when we lived on East 119th Street. My next youngest sibling was probably 3 or 4 years, let's see, we moved 52. So yeah, she was about 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And we're sitting at the dinner table, and looking around, and all of a sudden somebody says, "Where's Sis?" Well, Sis was somewhere else. And this went on for a couple of weeks. And so
Maybe
then
even
Dad,
longer. I bet I did that for a long time till somebody got wise.
yeah, we got wise. Well, we didn't get wise. My mother got wise and told my father, who told not gonna do that anymore, and everybody was looking at you, and so you couldn't sneak away anymore. So
Trapped.
that was,
So what were you
Were you
doing?
sneaking?
No, yeah, I was just escaping before dinner was over. Well,
Like I
one time Mom told me, my mother liked peas. She used to make pea soup all the time, and I hated, basically I hated food. And I hated her pea soup in particular. And she told me, I'm gonna add some milk
That
because this
liver
will make
stuff
it taste
is-
better. It only made it twice as much volume that I was supposed to, and it tasted just as disgusting. And it was like, I felt like she really did a number on me that time. I'm not staying here at this table to be, I don't want to eat this stuff.
she liked to make liver and onions. Apparently that was his Swiss
You have a
favorite.
big
I hated
connection.
liver.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
the worst.
liver and garlic.
Oh, God, that was the worst.
She told me that was my favorite. I said, Mom, you're mixing me up with something.
But she learned from Grandma Aubrecht how to make fleet tea. You guys remember fleet tea? It's ham with other stuff and noodles. Huh?
It's ham and
And
noodles, and a lot of grease.
Yeah, yes. It was very good.
That's how Czechs cook. They use it's a lot of pork and a lot of grease.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the things that Dad liked his entire life was sinkers, which his mother made. Those are dumplings, and you make them, and then you throw them in the pot, and they bubble around. Finally, they sink. Yeah, with
Raw
potatoes.
potatoes.
Yeah.
We
Raw-
made him
yeah,
sinkers the
correct.
last time we had
He loved
Thanksgiving.
them. And he especially loved them after the first time because you could cut them up into little bits that look like croutons, and then you fry them in butter. Even more of this stuff, right? Oh man, they were good.
I know how they work. We experimented a whole week in Germany. We made dumplings every day. I did all the recipes from the neighbors, the grandmothers, until we finally said they're good. They're really good, but they're not the real right sinkers. And then we found out that they're all made from raw
Potato, that's right.
Yeah.
And you have to add in some raw potato starch. And then they're solid.
Oh no, I never
Like
did the
concrete,
potato
and
starch.
then he said, that's right.
But I do have to say, every time I make them, my grandmother Aubrecht taught me how to make them. And every time I make them, I manage to get a little bit of blood into the potatoes. Go like this with the potatoes. So. Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk a little bit about, we're here and we just had a really fantastic military burial. I think it was really incredible. And I think probably everybody feels the same way. Just to begin with, I did not know this, but that was a flyover for my father at the funeral. That was part of the experience. Those planes that were going. I was like, I can't hear the chaplain. What are they going? But that was on purpose, and if I had known that, I'm still excited.
It
But
was a real honor because they didn't drop any bombs.
Why did they do flyover? What's that about?
why did they what?
Why did they do that flyover?
The signal.